All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 97 of the Fantasy Timeline, a proud member of the Dynasty Addicts Podcast Network. I'm with my main man, Bill at Super Dupaflex. I'm with my other main man, Drew at DR_PRA. Fellas, how are you guys doing?
Doing good. Great to have a full week in the books, see how some teams are shaping up. 1-0 in the listener league, so I'll take my wins where I can.
I knew that was gonna happen.
Lost
beat us by like 4 points in the listener league. So awesome job, Drew.
Oh my god, I lost my home league, my redraft by 1 point because made a poor choice. So it felt good to come back on Monday night, but no, it's so exciting to have a full weekend and see some things pan out. Some things turned out really, really well, and others not so much. But football is back.
Football is back, and I think we're going to get into a lot of the stuff that you briefly touched on, Drew. Bill, how you doing, man?
Man, good. Just so happy that football is back. It was nice to catch some of the games. With the new puppy, I don't get to watch all day football like I once did, but I caught most of the early games on Red Zone and Monday night, which was just insane. So yeah, no, it was good. It was good to watch football again. I forgot how much I missed it until I had the chance to watch some games, and it's a long off season, so. Looking forward to having an extra week this year, and so one more week of us talking about actual football is ideal.
Yeah, that's crazy. We have another week, and I'm gonna make a confession here, and I never do this, but I went to sleep at halftime of the Monday night game. I just had a really long weekend. I was feeling run down. I said, all right, this is a back and forth game, but, the Ravens are going to, they're going to do what the Ravens do. They're going to come out in the second half. They're going to beat an inferior team. So, this isn't a game that I need to stay awake. Didn't really have a lot of Ravens or Raiders on any of my teams. So it wasn't a game that I needed a Monday night miracle. I went to bed, and then I woke up in the morning, and I was like, of course, the one time that I go to bed early, if I had stayed up, the Ravens would have won by like 3 touchdowns, and I would have been like, man, why did I stay up? Now I'm going to be miserable Tuesday morning. But I went to sleep, and, there were fumbles, there were interceptions, there were touchdowns that weren't really touched. Everything under the sun happened, and I was snoozing away. I was snoring. So that's my confession, and I have learned my lesson that I will never, ever do that again. I'm going to stay up no matter what, and be miserable on Tuesday morning. But week 1 is in the books, and we know what that means. That means we get to bring back the good, the bad, and the ugly from week 1. We all got a pick for the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're going to kind of do this like a little snake draft. We'll start off, and we'll just kind of loop it around. And listen, Bill and I were talking earlier. We all interpret good, bad, and ugly in different ways. So it's going to be interesting to get all of our different viewpoints. Maybe one of us viewed something as bad, the other person viewed it as ugly. But we're gonna go through it, and I think we're gonna touch on some of the players that probably won you, or unfortunately maybe lost you week 1. So I'll start off with my first good. Dak Prescott, 403 yards, 3 touchdowns. And I mean, what a way to start the first week of the 2021 season. Obviously, I could have also went in the other direction with the quarterback on the opposite side of the field, Tom Brady. He had a hell of a game too. But I think this is the good, because Dak Prescott, we were all worried, first about the ankle, and then there was the preseason shoulder injury. Oh, what's going to happen? Is he going to be good? Is he going to be? And I think we've learned that he's going to be all right, or, all right until his arm falls off, because he can't throw 58, 59 times a game and survive a 17-game season. but it was good to see him come back. It was good to see the coaching staff believe in his health enough to throw almost 60 times. So that's my good. Bill, why don't you hit us with your good?
Yeah, my good was is Jalen Hurts. Everybody was wondering how he was gonna be this season. A lot of people, there's rumors of him being part of a trade away. Um, Concerns that is he going to be able to improve in his passing? Maybe that's part of the offense that helped him out. I'm not sure, but whatever it was, I mean, he did quite well. I mean, he was 80% ish passing, completion percentage, 27 to 35, 264 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. So, and also 7 rushes for 62 yards. So, I mean, that's a pretty awesome fantasy week. And for the price that you were acquiring him, because he was around QB 12, 13 range towards the, end of the offseason or preseason. So to get a guy who at least shows that at least for 1 week he can put it together. And this is, I think I saw a stat. This is a second 300 yards total out of his 5 complete games that he's played. So,
well, I think that's passing yardage. I don't even think that's total yardage.
Well, he didn't get 264. He got 264 yards passing.
Oh, okay. I saw one with him and Lamar.
Yeah, I that's why I kind of changed it because I couldn't have been
this pass game, right?
Yeah, at least this game, right? Yeah. So, I mean, regardless, I mean, he showed up, and that's a good sign. And I know Josh wasn't a believer. I'm not necessarily a believer either. I still think he has limitations, and but maybe this offense suits him, and they're gonna be good, and they're gonna utilize his talents and not make him make throws that he's weak at. So, yeah, good job, Jalen Hurts, and anybody that drafted him a little later in some redrafts, is probably pretty happy right now.
All right, Drew, why don't you hit us with your good?
I went with David Montgomery. I've got him across quite a few leagues. A couple of spots that I felt like I had to play him because like one league, OBJ got hurt late, so I had to slide him in as another flex. And to see him go over 100 yards against the Rams, so I don't think gave up a 100-yard rushing game to anybody last year, and get the score was pretty impressive. Looked like he had a really strong burst. I don't know if he's going to be an RB1 this year, but definitely glad that I kept him where I had him. Got some low ball offers over the offseason, so I'm glad I didn't succumb to my emotions at that point and just make a trade to make a trade.
Yeah, and we'll get into this in a little bit, but God, it was scary when he went down. I was watching that game Sunday night, and it was like, oh no, don't do it. We had so many. I don't even want to get into it because we're gonna get into it in a little bit, but that was scary. But no, he looked good, man. People, believers like you, Drew, are very happy after week 1 that they kept the faith and kept him on his team. Why don't we snake this around? And Drew, why don't you hit us with your bad?
Had to go here with the home team. Looking at the Bills trying to repeat an old play on 4th and 1 with a backwards pass. And I couldn't decide if that was bad or ugly. I just felt like that was probably a bad call at that time, trying to get a little too cute when you've got Josh Allen, who could probably get you the yard pretty easily by himself or get there another way. But yeah, just poor execution there. It was tough to watch in a game that I felt going into it should have been winnable for the Bills. So props to the Steelers for making it tough and pulling out the W. Special teams paid off, but not the start that I was hoping for the team. So that stings.
All right, Bill, hit us with your bad.
Yeah, my bad. It's actually not the worst bad because it could have been ugly. I just talk every week 1 there's usually some injuries, a decent amount of injuries. So, this year it was, Jerry Jeudy, Fitzpatrick, Mostert, pretty much losing at least half a season or more for each of those guys. Plus, Mekhi Becton, for the Jets. That's going to kill their offensive line. Gerald McCoy also out for the season. So there's some pretty major, hits to the rushing game for a lot of these teams. And Judy hurts big time for a lot of people because he looked really good before he got hurt. I think he had 6 catches from 7 targets. So, that's a big bummer. At least he's coming back, but those high ankle sprains, if they're pretty rough, especially for guys who are cutting and that sort of thing. So the fact that he's a good route runner may be hindered a little bit. So I wouldn't expect a ton from him until late in the season, at least personally. So good news is that it could have been a lot worse, so it's not ugly, but there was some bad injuries that will affect some fantasy teams, especially with Superflex with Fitzpatrick, because a lot of times people are hoping for the best for him, as a cheap add-on towards the end of a draft. So yeah, it was the injuries. Something we'll probably have to deal with every week.
Yeah, and you're right about that. And by the way, Judy, 6 receptions, 7 targets, 72 yards. So he was, he was cooking before the injury. And obviously, whether you're talking dynasty or redraft, he was a big part of a lot of people's teams. But man, I mean, it seemed like every time I turned around, it was like, oh, well, Raheem Mostert's gone. Brian Fitzpatrick is gone. Jerry Judy's gone. I was like, all right, can we stop? And then even after some games, we found out that Michael Gallup is going to miss 5 weeks. It's just like we go through a whole off season with no one, getting injured during games. Obviously this year was kind of rough with Dobbins and ETN and those guys getting hurt, Cam Akers as well. But, we're kind of prepared for it because we have time to process it and, rearrange our teams accordingly. But week 1, we're like, all right, we're ready to go. We're looking at our roster. There's hope. And then guys go down. So I'm with you, Bill. That was bad. My bad was King Henry, man. King Henry. We thought it was, a lock that he would get 100 yards because does it all the time. I mean, it's just what he does. 17 rushing attempts for 58 yards and 3 receptions for 19 yards. That is 20 total touches for 77 yards. Yikes. Just yikes. I mean, the whole Titans offense looked bad. I mean, Ryan Tannehill saved his day with a rushing touchdown, but he wasn't good. The community as a whole was saying, don't you worry about Julio. Julio's going to be just fine. Well, if that game is just fine, we are in some big trouble. But, yeah, my bad has to be King Henry because I think we just assumed that he was going to run rough shot, and he did not. So that's my bad, and I'm going to loop it since we're snaking this thing. And my ugly, Kyle Pitts. Listen, we all, I shouldn't say we all, but the majority of us, we anointed him. He was the chosen one. He was the golden child. Whatever other metaphor or cliche you wanted to throw on him had been thrown upon him. And in week 1, he had 8 targets, and you would go, 8 targets, that's pretty good. 31 yards. So that's not so good. But that whole offense just looked terrible. After that first drive, and, I live in the Philly area, so I was watching that game. After that first drive, I mean, they couldn't do anything. I mean, the defense was just ripping through that offensive line. I mean, I felt sorry. They put a rookie out there, and he was just getting manhandled. There was at one point they had him just sitting on the bench, and he looked like he was about to cry because he, it's his first NFL game, and he's literally getting embarrassed on national television. I can't imagine what that is like, and then, that offensive line isn't protecting anyone. Matt Ryan is not a fleet of foot, if you would say. So he was on his back a lot, and the whole offense went down. But I had to go with Kyle Pitts because we were talking about how much we loved him. Bill, why don't you piggyback on this and tell us who your ugly is?
Yeah, my ugly was Matt Ryan. He just looked really bad. That offensive line is just awful. He's not very fleet of foot, so that's going to be a challenge. I think they're going to have to throw a fair amount, but it just looked like they're trying to force the run so much. Even when they got behind, they were just running the ball so much that it was kind of surprising to me. And so I think they're going to have to open it up a little bit more. But the problem is, if your line sucks, what can you do? So they're in a huge predicament. And I think we're still going to see decent amount of targets for Ridley and Pitts. I mean, 8 targets for Pitts, that's like 130, 100 targets for the season. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive for a rookie tight end. It's just a matter of how many is he going to catch. So I don't think Matt Ryan can be that bad. I think that they'll have to make some adjustments, but he's rough. I mean, I started him on a few teams, and what do we get? 21 to 35 for 164 yards and nothing else. No touchdowns, no interceptions. So he's going to have to get a little bit more time. Having an old quarterback that can't run with a shitty offensive line is a recipe for disaster, and that's what we saw this week. So hopefully they find some new ingredients and the recipe tastes better next week.
Yeah, and Drew, before we get into your ugly, since Bill and I piled on the Falcons pain train here, it was funny because during that game they were talking about the Falcons rebuild, and I go, well, man, if this was a legit rebuild, I don't know if taking a tight end at the 4th pick really embodies the true rebuild. Taking a guy at 4, it seems like a move a team makes if they think they are able to compete and contend. But I mean, after watching that game, I don't think they can do either of those things. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes on throughout the season. But Drew, why don't you wrap it up with your ugly?
From one aging quarterback to another here. My QB too, Aaron Rodgers. I guess at least Matt Ryan didn't complete any passes to the Eagles, which is more than what we can say for Rodgers, who 15 for 28, 133 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I think I saw somewhere online, like your base QBR, if you just throw the ball into the ground every time, is like 38 something. And he ended up with a total rating of 36.8. Which means that is, I think, one of the lowest, if not the lowest rating of his starting career. So hopefully that's not a sign of things to come. I can't say I was super encouraged by the body language in the press conference afterwards either. Typically there's some sort of, urgency or I'm going to prove it next week kind of a feel. I don't know that that's there, which is a little scary. So we'll see what happens there. But, to get outshined by Jameis Winston in week 1 is a little rough.
Yeah, that's like, it's concerning, but you almost there's 2, pathways in my brain of thinking about how this is. Sometimes he does start out slow. Remember the year RELAX, so sometimes he's a slow starter, that sort of thing. But then you always go, man, they're forced him back this year. Like, is this just the big FU to Green Bay management for making him come back and not trading him? And he's just going to at least make his point early, before he does other stuff. I mean, I can't imagine he'd waste a whole season, but yeah, it was pretty rough watching that.
Well, and I had seen a stat too. Now, obviously, this is on Twitter, so it may or may not be true, but that Aaron Rodgers has never won a game in the state of Florida in his professional career. Now, someone could fact check that if they want. But I remember seeing that before the game and going, wow, that's an interesting, weird stat. And I mean, how many games has he really played in Florida? I mean, the Dolphins are in the AFC, and then you have the Jags also in the AFC. So, how many times has he really played in Florida? But I mean, I guess it could be one of those weird but true stats. But if it is true, the hits just keep on coming. Maybe, who was it? Derek Carr is the guy that can't play in cold weather. Maybe Aaron Rodgers is the guy that can't play in warm weather. I don't know, but
it wasn't Ben Roethlisberger can't play on the road.
So there's always weird little statistical things like that. But I mean, that was a great week one, good, bad, and ugly, fellas, because all of those guys were on your team, and they helped you or they hurt you. And here's one from Lindsay. Good. Stafford and the Rams. Of course, she's going to throw that out there as a LA Rams fan. Bad, that entire Titans offense. I feel like she's taking personal shots at you, Drew. And then the ugly, the dysfunction in Green Bay. And then she said, "You guys forgot the Rams." We don't forget anything. We are a very pro Matthew Stafford podcast. We have been since day one. We're glad that he's finally. Well, I am. I don't know if Bill is happy that he's out of Detroit, but we're happy that he can spread his wings and fly. So,
as a Detroit fan, we are very happy when our good players go elsewhere that have the opportunity to win. Tigers with Justin Verlander, Stafford. Man, he did look really good though. He like him and McVay are gonna have a serious bromance going on, man. Like, these guys are going to be like, Kershaw better get a little nervous that he might be losing his bestie to McVay.
I'm telling you what, man, that touchdown to Van Jefferson, it made me feel some type of way. I'm not going to lie. There might have been some movement, but that was just, I saw that and I was Bill's out. I think Bill maybe had more movement than I did. He has to leave for a second, but that first touchdown of Van Jefferson, I was just like, oh my goodness. I was like, let's go, Matt Stafford. So yeah. I mean, that's all I can say. We're gonna keep it moving. Actually, you know what? We got a question up in here. Why don't we throw this up real quick? 10-team PPR keeper league. That was interesting. We keep 3 without penalties or anything. Montgomery, Lockett, Hunt, 9th round pick, 12th round pick for Barkley, A-Rob, Pitts, Ayuk, 14th and 15th round pick. I mean, I love Allen Robinson. Can I just say that one more time? Even though his week wasn't that great either, week one, but once Justin Fields gets out there, Drew will agree with me on this. Once Justin Fields gets out there, it'll be nice. So, yeah, give me the A-Rob side. Barkley will be fine in a couple weeks. I don't know if, this week I think is too short of a turnaround. What do you guys think about that? I mean, how are you feeling about having to start Barkley this week if you have him on any teams? I wouldn't be a fan if I had him on any of my teams.
I have him on a couple teams, or maybe more. I don't recall. But if I have any sort of other option, I'm playing them. Like, I have Sanders in one. he's starting over Barkley.
Okay.
So like, I mean, I think I just have to see it now.
Okay.
You kind of got to earn your way back onto my team, I guess. But if I don't have the depth, you got to play him, right? Like,
Of
I mean,
course.
if it's like him or like, I don't know,
Myles Gaskin.
Yeah, that would be tough. Gaskin, I would probably not play over Barkley.
All right, here's
Mike Davis. I'm not playing him over Barkley. I just shoot for the upside at that point.
So here's one. We're gonna weave some things together here. Elijah Mitchell or Saquon?
Oh, I'm totally playing Saquon over Elijah Mitchell. Yeah.
See, and I did that because we're going to segue into what we see on the timeline. It says, professionalism here. It's what I do. So this first one here is from Brett Brito at Dad Bod Brett. Are you starting Elijah Mitchell this week or watching how this backfield plays out? So obviously, I just wanted to weave Barkley in there to get the segue going, but it flex. That's probably realistically where you would be starting an Elijah Mitchell unless you got devastated by running back injuries. Is he a guy you want to start, or is this kind of like let me wait and see? Because if you have him, you either got him before the season started, or you just dropped a whole bunch of fab money to go get him. So what do you do here?
I have a hard time trusting that. Like, okay, that offense in general has been a cluster for years, not knowing which player to play. So I still don't trust that he's the guy. I think he's going to have a role, but I wonder if he's going to be the complimentary back to whoever else is there. Trey Sermon. I did see something where Sermon and Ayuk kind of maybe got into a little bit of trouble, and that's why they weren't playing or didn't play. So if that's the case, like, I think he did his time, and maybe he comes in, and because I'd seen somebody's tweet saying that throughout the whole time of the Niners camp, never once did anybody come out and say Elijah Mitchell looked better than Trey Sermon. And so I think this is just one of those things where Sermon had to do his time for whatever problems that he had, and he's going to be playing, and he's going to be the main guy this week. Now, am I certain? No. But at the same time, I have to make a decision on whether I'm going to start Elijah Mitchell or not. And that's enough doubt for me that I would rather play somebody else.
Drew, what about you?
Yeah, this is totally a wait and see for me for a couple more weeks. I'm not sure if I saw it right or not, but did they just go out and add Trenton Cannon or somebody else today or yesterday or something?
Yeah, so they grabbed Carry-On a couple days ago. Now they've grabbed Trenton Cannon from Baltimore, I guess, waived them, and then San Fran picked them up. So, yeah, I'm waiting to see. I think it has to be Sermon getting a shot to lead the backfield here at some point. And again, it's Shanahan, right? So he's rotated through everybody over the last few years. So I will wait and see unless I have really no other option at running back and I have to fill 2 or 3 roster spots. Yeah, listen. I know Trey Sermon. Everybody has loved Trey Sermon during the offseason. And me and maybe a select few are let's hold off on Trey Sermon a little bit. Elijah Mitchell came out and he balled out. He didn't just come out there and steal carries and just, kind of muddle through the game. He looked good. Now, both you guys mentioned Kyle Shanahan and Shanahanigans is what they call it. So anything can happen. But I can't believe Kyle Shanahan watched that game and said, let's keep this guy off the field because Trey Sermon, a guy who I decided wasn't worthy enough to be active on the 53-man roster. I mean, he could have made Trey Sermon active and just not played him any snaps. But he did not even put him on the 53-man roster. That's a little concerning to me. Now, obviously, I can't imagine, and listen, I'll probably be wrong on Sunday. He'll be a surprise inactive again. But if I had to bet money, I would bet that Trey Sermon would be on the active roster. But, I mean, Elijah Mitchell showed that he can play. Now, yes, it was against the Lions, and you say what you want about the Lions, but that's where Kyle Shanahan went. He didn't say, hey, JaMychal Hasty, let's split this up 50-50. He said, all right, Elijah Mitchell, you're going to be this dude unless you stink out loud, and he didn't. So it'll be interesting to see. I have a little faith in Elijah Mitchell just because I was telling people, hey, if you're going to get Trey Sermon, you might as well get a little discount on Elijah Mitchell. And now kind of seeing some of the Devy guys who before the draft and everything said that they thought Elijah Mitchell was really good and were surprised that he got drafted so low is making me feel a little bit better about that. So I would play him, depending on my team, obviously. It's probably like a flex spot type thing. I doubt that I would be so hard up that I would need to start him at running back. But, I mean, who knows? If you're in like a Scott Fishbowl type situation and, you went with, Cam Akers and Travis Etienne and Gus Edwards, and you're like, all right, down. You may have to start Elijah Mitchell. But, and trust me, some of the waiver bids, I don't know if you guys caught any of that, but some of the ones I saw were between like 90 and 100% of the fab budget. So there were people that either believe or people that were desperate and needed, I bid 30% of my fab budget, knowing that it probably wasn't going to work, but I wanted to have a bid in there in case, everyone in my division just didn't like them. But, I think in my division, he went for 90 fab dollars. So, we'll see. I think people are trying to recreate the James Robinson from last year. I don't know if he'll be that good. I don't think he will, but he looked good week one. So we'll find out, Brett. But that's a good question. And then we'll segue this to Rocky Petrella at Dynasty FF Addict with a question. I think this is directed mostly towards Bill here. I was going to ask if Sermon can still get 1,300 yards now that he's already missed a game. So, Bill off screen. Bill left. He's not answering questions at this time.
I have no idea. I didn't say he could, so I just joked. Watch that he will because
is
Josh
it still
was
in
so
the
low on
range
him.
Of possibilities?
However, the fountain of misinformation and changing the words in my mouth of Rocky Petrella, I don't know what to say other than no comment. I'm not sure what to say. So
Bill's just here so he doesn't get fined.
On to the next one.
So, but Bill, hold on. I do want to ask you: were you surprised when you saw that he was inactive? And I'm being serious because I was shocked.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think everybody was surprised. I think, the expectation was that he was going to be a contributor. But if what my buddy told me that he had read, and that it was a disciplinary issue, I mean, Shanahan's going to be that kind of guy, right? Like he's the guy who runs the show. He's going to let those guys know he runs the show. And, so if that's the case, then, I mean, nobody would have projected that, right? Like, I don't think anybody saw that coming. So that leads me to believe that that's probably the case. But, we'll see. Maybe he's got to earn his way back, and Ayuk. Maybe that's it, because he mentioned Ayuk has to become a better professional. So if those two guys get lumped together, that's Yeah, that's a bad start for his career. So, but I expect him to show up and start becoming more and more part of the offense. That's not something. I don't think he's going to be Dante Pettis in his second season or anything like that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I saw someone on Twitter say something about it being disciplinary, but I didn't see any reputable outlets report that. Now, listen, if you saw something and I missed it, please send it my way. I'm wrong all the time, so you won't bother me one bit. But the wording after the press conference was interesting, where Kyle Shanahan said that Elijah Mitchell and JaMychal Hasty outplayed Trey Sermon, and that's why he was inactive. Now, a guy like Shanahan doesn't seem to me to be
That's
the guy.
coach speak.
But why would he lie if it's a disciplinary thing? Why
those are
wouldn't
the guys that played for him? So he doesn't want it to become a new show about being disciplined of two of his starish players.
I mean, I believe that more for Ayuk as a starish player than Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon hasn't done anything.
Why are you running with that? My point is that
because that's what the coach said, and I haven't seen any reputable outlet report the disciplinary action. That's why I'm running with that, because that's what the coach actually said. All the disciplinary stuff is stuff that other
Those
people
go together, though. The reason why nobody's reporting it is because he's not the one addressing it, right? You understand what I'm saying? He's keeping it under wraps.
If it was a disciplinary thing, it would have been reported. The reporters don't care about what the coach thinks. They're going to report if they're like, oh, Trey Sermon missed curfew, or Trey Sermon, whatever the case may be. I don't know if it was a disciplinary thing, what disciplinary thing he did. ESPN would have reported that. ESPN doesn't care if Kyle Shanahan's not happy about it. They're going to report it because people are going to want to read, oh, Trey Sermon was out. Oh, because he missed curfew, or he tried to sneak a girl in, or whatever the case may be. So that's why I'm kind of like, I wonder if it's really because in Kyle Shanahan's mind, Trey Sermon didn't perform, or it could be that, but I'm leaning more towards that because no one has reported it. That's why
nobody had reported Eli Mitchell did better than Trey Sermon throughout the whole camp.
Oh, agree with that too. But I mean, he came out on that field and he was damn good. So there could be something to it.
Yeah, but my point is your point about Sermon, them reporting this, and you're taking credence of Sermon,
I'm taking credence of what the coach said.
You're not taking the credence to the news of no news being reported about Elijah Mitchell doing better than Sermon.
Right, but the reason why I can take credence is because Elijah Mitchell actually went out there and then did what he did.
We're talking in circles because I think you get my point.
Hey, I love having an argument with you, and Drew loves just sitting in the background watching us. So
everyone's a flashback to 10th grade, man.
What's that?
It's a flashback to 10th grade right here.
We're gonna have to have that 10th grade story off air later on. I gotta see what happened with that. But we got a question in the chat here, so I want to bring it up from Noah Drontel. Noah, I hope I said your last name right. Should I start Chris Godwin or Allen Robinson this week? I have Tom Brady, so if I start Godwin, I would have the stack. I'm very much on stacking anyone with Tom Brady this year. I mean, yes, Dallas's defense is bad, and their offense is good, which made the Thursday night game very exciting. But I feel like Tom Brady is going to do that to a lot of teams. I feel like they're going to run up the score on a lot of teams. I said in another chat that I wouldn't be shocked if Tom Brady went 5,050 this year. So, yeah, I love Allen Robinson, though. Is there a way that you can put them both in? There's got to be somebody you can kick out. We were talking earlier about guys that you would start over Saquon. I mean, are you putting a Miles Sanders in there? Maybe there's Miles Sanders you can kick out, or I don't know. But if I have to, gun to my head, I'm probably going Chris Godwin because I want as many players on that Bucs offense as I could possibly get. What do you guys think?
Yeah, if Godwin and Robinson are your wide receivers 4 and 5 or 3 and 4 or something, and that's the debate, then make a trade if you need to bolster somewhere else. But same, if you have a chance to stack Godwin with Brady until Justin Fields starts, like Josh said earlier, Godwin gets the nod this week for that. So based on the question at face value, that's the direction I'd go.
Yeah, I agree. I think I saw something where the Bears were the only team not to attempt a pass over 15 yards. So with that being said, I think that kind of answers your question, to me at least. I think that Godwin showed he was getting targets galore, and it seems to be a high volume offense. So I would be totally happy starting Godwin until the Bears prove that they can do anything with Dalton or Fields, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Get their head out of their butt.
And I'll just say this to wrap up on this question. I love podcasting with these two guys because we can go back and forth for 2 or 3 minutes like Bill and I did about Elijah Mitchell, and then we can just snap of the fingers, we can be on the same page with Chris Godwin and loving Allen Robinson, but not loving the quarterback choices that Matt Nagy has made so far. So hopefully somebody had the theory that they're putting Andy Dalton out there because they had the Rams and they have a couple of tough defenses to start the season, and they're going to let Andy Dalton get beat up and then throw Justin Fields out there when it gets a little bit better for the defensive matchup. So I'll be curious to see if any of that comes true. But just watching him in those little, the little bit of time he got on Sunday, like, why the hell is he your starting quarterback? Why are we playing this game? You made Andy Dalton a promise. Guess what? It's the NFL. Promises get broken. Andy, you're a big boy. You getting paid. Sit on the bench next to Nick Foles. Y'all can talk about all the money you guys have made and keep it moving while Justin Fields goes out there and blesses us all with his talent. But until then, Noah, yeah, I think Bill nailed it on the head. You got to go, against Allen Robinson until you see Justin Fields out there, unfortunately. But let's drop. I'm gonna skip this one. I'm gonna go to this one here. This is the Dynasty Pollster at Dynasty Pollster. Who would you rather have in Dynasty? This is standard scoring. Josh Jacobs, who is 23 years old, Miles Sanders, who is 24 years old, or Aaron Jones, who is 26 and will be 27 in December. I think we're going to all agree on this one, but maybe not. So, Drew, who's your pick? You going Josh Jacobs here?
I am.
All right.
I'll take the youth. I'll take I'll hope that he gets a chance, even if he doesn't stay with the Raiders as rookie contract. Maybe somebody else picks him up that can use him a little bit more or something. But Aaron Jones this weekend, he's aging. Who knows what the heck the Packers are going to look like the rest of the season now, never mind next year. I think the poll here shows it's pretty close between Sanders and Jacobs in terms of the actual percentage. So I could see an argument for one of those guys being a little bit younger, but Jacobs, and probably a little recency bias since he did well for me in a couple leagues this week.
And that reminds me, just on a little side tangent before we get to Bill's answer. Bill, are you currently winning our running back bet between Zeke, Aaron Jones, and Austin Eckler? Because I feel like Austin Eckler had a touchdown, which automatically puts him ahead of both of those guys after their week 1 performances. So
that was a totally uneducated decision that I just took the third guy.
Oh, so. I know, but it's week 1. I think it worked out pretty dang well. So, hey, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. But all right, Bill, what do you out of the 3 guys we're really talking about here? Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, and Aaron Jones. Who's your guy for Dynasty?
Yeah, I kind of rule out Miles Sanders immediately. I think he's not the guy I want. I'm a little concerned that maybe Gainwell is something. He looks pretty useful, which is going to arguably take targets away from Miles Sanders. So it's down to Jacobs or Aaron Jones. Jacobs has that turf toe. Like, it's kind of concerning. He was hobbled so much during that game. I mean, I know he looked good, like when he ran, but man, like turf toes can just mess up a player for the whole season. So that's a big concern of mine. But then at the same time, Aaron Jones, this is the only year left for him. Like with Aaron Rodgers, there's a lot of things that are going to change after this year. And so man, that's the tough choice between the two of those guys. Like I can see going either way. So like fence sitting and saying it's kind of like team dependent. Am I a contender? Am I not? I do kind of like the Josh Jacobs idea, but Aaron Jones can win you a league this year. So I think I'm going to lean Aaron Jones, but it's just ever so slightly.
Yeah, and before I give my answer, as the poll sits right now, about 57% of the vote is to Aaron Jones. So my answer is Aaron Jones, and I think the reason why is I think the point was brought up that you have a year of Aaron Jones, but I think obviously you can't trade him off of his last game unless you want to get pennies on the dollar. But I think that whole team is going to bounce back, and they may do it as soon as next week against the Lions. Apologies, Bill. But if he goes out there and he has 20 rushes for 100 yards and 5 catches for another 35. Now all of a sudden we're back, it's going to swing back to, man, Aaron Jones is really good. Aaron Jones is a top 12 guy. And even if you are even if you're a rebuilder, I think that's the point where you find the contender and go, okay, listen, I'm going to slide you Aaron Jones. You're going to slide me, a first, maybe that guy has Elijah Mitchell and he, posted another 100-yard game. You're going to get some young pieces. You're going to get some picks and, everybody goes home happy because, the contender believes that Aaron Jones is going to be a top 12 guy and you're hopefully going to get some pieces that will help you rebuild. So I think Aaron Jones is that. And Josh Jacobs, I think he's so talented, but him being on the Raiders, and I know, situations change all the time, but there's not too many situations like the Raiders where the coach is there, to the end of time. So that scares me a little bit with John Gruden being there, another 6 years, something like that. So yeah, give me Aaron Jones and, we'll keep it moving like that. But here we go. We got a couple questions in a row, and I want to throw them out here and see what you guys think because it's always better when we do this unprepared. From MB, who are the best waiver pickups besides Elijah, and what should I do with Pittman and Mooney? So why don't we break it down right now? Best waiver pickups, and this sounds like redraft. So let's put our Scott Fishbowl hats on for a minute. And who were some guys that you went after in the waivers this week?
I looked at Tim Patrick if he wasn't rostered, kind of seeing what happens there in Denver. He was serviceable last year, so if you just need kind of a gap filler at wide receiver, he could potentially be somebody worthwhile. I think a lot of people chased after the points in Indy with Pascal, so I kind of let that go. I put a low bid in to keep a couple leagues honest, but otherwise expected to miss out on him. And depending on what your scoring is, if you're in any kind of a TE premium, you got a couple of options if you want to take some dart throws for low bids at like Oshag Hennessy over in Jacksonville, or if you still have any kind of sliver of hope for Njoku, maybe if the Browns keep using him a little bit. But those are the guys that I kind of looked at, and I threw a couple of low bids out to see if I'd snag anybody on the cheap. But otherwise, nothing really where I'm committing a huge percentage of my fab.
So I know for Scott Fishbowl, I bid and won Tim Patrick for $7. So they're a little fab there. But a guy I picked up for free, and he may only be a 1 week rental, but you shouldn't have to spend a lot of fab to get him. Anthony Schwartz from the Browns. Drew, you mentioned Njoku, but they're already saying that Odell Beckham is not going to play this week. So Anthony Schwartz against the Chiefs was 3 for $69. Nice. They play the Houston Texans. And listen, the Texans may have shocked the world by mollywhopping the Jacksonville Jaguars, but the Cleveland Browns are not the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think we're going to see what we expected to see from the Texans this week, and that's a whole lot of nothing. And Anthony Schwartz could be involved in that. So if you're looking for maybe a 1 week flex spot fill-in, or maybe this is a multi-flex league, I don't know. Maybe Anthony Schwartz is a guy you can, put in as a high upside lotto ticket. Bill, is there anyone that caught your eye?
Really the only one that kind of intrigues me. I agree with Drew. Like, there's not a lot that's super intriguing. Like, I want to spend a ton of my fab on or anything. But Cedric Wilson's an interesting one just because with Gallup out, he's probably first in line to get more routes and targets. And he, a high octane, high volume offense, throwing a wide receiver in there. It's worth a shot, like maybe he ends up maybe it ends up going to the tight ends and you dump him after a week. So that's okay. Or maybe one of the other wide receivers takes over. He only took over because he was the most experienced during the game last week. So, he's the one that's probably most intriguing to me, just because I know it's not going to cost as much as some of the other ones. And I think that the ceiling's pretty high for like what he could end up being. And if not, I'm totally fine cutting him after a week.
I love that. And what should I do with Pittman and Mooney? I mean, I think it depends on your league, how deep your benches are.
I think you hold them.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would definitely hold Pittman. Maybe if you have like shallow benches, you ditch Mooney because, like we said earlier, until Justin Fields comes out there, that whole offense is just kind of like, you don't really feel good about anything. So, in a short bench situation, maybe you dump Mooney. But I'm with Bill. If you have the roster spots and there's nobody out on the waiver wire that you're really like super excited about, keep Mooney and hope that after the week 2 shellacking, they probably take Matt Nagy will find himself and put Justin Fields out there. Let's hit this one too. We got 2 in a row, so I like it. From Timothy Chan. Hey, bro. I got a trade offer to me, wondering if I should take it. I receive Mike Evans, Miles Sanders, and Robbie Anderson. I give up J-Rob, Godwin, Galladay, and Ayuk. So, wow, that's like a lot of players. I don't know if I'm excited about anybody besides Godwin, but I'm going to let you smarter people talk before me. So, Bill, why don't we flip it to you? Oh, by the way, he says full PPR for his trade. So, which side do you like?
I'm not sure I would do 3 of those 4 players for the Evans, Sanders, and Anderson side. Like, if you said J-Rob, Galladay, and Ayuk, I'm not sure I make that trade. So, no, I'm not making that trade. I don't think it's close. I think you say no thank you and or ask for a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, the only player that I'm like super excited about right now is Godwin. And then you're also giving up like 4 players for 3. I mean, Miles Sanders was good this week, but I can't imagine that the Eagles are going to be in a lot of 20-plus point game scripts. So that could be, that could totally change what Miles Sanders' outlook looks like. Yeah. So I mean, to me, it's like you're giving up the best player, and then you're giving up the most.
I think he might be giving up the two best players.
Who would be your second? Ayuk?
J-Rob.
J-Rob? I'm worried about Urban Meyer and what he is smoking.
I'm an idiot. Disregard that.
You thought it was A-Rob?
I did.
Okay, no big deal. But hey, since I'm on it, I'm worried about what Urban Meyer might be smoking in Jacksonville, because
that's closer than what I was thinking. So let's say that. But
okay.
But I still would not make that trade,
because I mean, you rush J-Rob 5 times, and then you rushed Carlos Hyde 9 times, and I know people are like, well, a lot of those rushes for Carlos Hyde came at the end of the game when they were getting blown out. But still, like, your grand plan was like, we're only going to rush J-Rob 5 times in this game. Like, okay, like, do you? But what do you think, Drew? Are you with us, or do you see something that we're not seeing?
No, I had to look at it a couple times here, and I'm trying to match up. I definitely want Godwin over Evans. J-Rob and Sanders are pretty close to a wash for me for this year. And then looking at Galladay and Robbie Anderson, it's PPR. Give me the shot at Galladay and Ayuk. Better chance of one of those two finding their way. Don't love Galladay with the Giants at this point. We'll see what Danny Dimes says this year. But I think, like you said, Godwin is definitely the best player in this package, and then Ayuk should be the second best in this package. So I would sit tight and restructure that, unless you just have a strong affinity or a strong hunch that Evans, Sanders, or Anderson's going to shock the world this year.
And our boy Justin at Run DFF is saying, whoa, easy with that Sanders slander, Drew. And that's not easy to say one time really fast. So, but Timothy, man, the only guy I would honestly be super excited to get in this trade is Godwin, and you're giving him up. So keep him. Just enjoy the fact that you have Godwin on your team. Here's another one. We got a lot of chat questions today, and I love it. From Jason. Jason, I'm afraid I'm gonna butcher your last name, so I'm not gonna do it to myself. Trade Chubb for Swift and Justin Jefferson. Ooh, that's nice. I mean, I'm on the Swift.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. So there you go, Jason. Trade Chubb. I mean, I love Chubb. I love Nick Chubb, but Swift and Justin Jefferson. By the way, I know Bill knows this, but Swift led the Lions in targets this week. So I have a feeling that him and TJ Hawkinson are going to ping pong that title every week of who gets the most targets. So do that, because I would want that on my team. I love Chubb, but those are two very good players. Yep, Drew did it right. Slam, Bill, slamming it. Slam that accept button. All right, here we go. From Matt Glore. Choose 4. Amari Woods, Thielen, Lockett, A-Rob, yes, A-Rob, Bill, and Antonio Brown. Man, that's a tough one. Let me look at these. So Amari, yes, because I think that now, especially with Michael Gallup out, him and Lamb are just going to increase in targets if that's humanly possible. I like AB, man. I think he's a real thing in this offense. Him and Brady have a connection, and I think that was evident in the Week 1 game. So now we're down to 2. I'm a big Tyler Lockett guy, but like his inconsistency scares me, and he had the good game Week 1, so it's like Can I rely on the good game in week 2? I think I leave Allen Robinson off the list, and I feel yucky saying that. I feel really gross saying that. What do you guys think?
Omari, Thielen, Lockett, AB.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I can't blame you for that either. I can't blame you for um, having Lockett in there at all. What about you, Drew?
Oh, it's tough. Thielen and Amari are locks that for me. They're easy to start. Comes down to Woods, AB, and A-Rob, I think, for me. I think Amari, you got your huge upside there. He could blow up for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns this week, which I think, Lockett is kind of that high ceiling play. So depending on what you need, I would go Amari, Thielen. I don't like AB, but Brady does, and that's what matters. And I'd like to think that Stafford and Woods get a little bit better this week. So I'd probably throw Woods in as the last. And, if Lockett follows up with a second week where he goes, 7 for 90 or something like that and shows that he's going to be a little bit more consistent. And then, until A-Rob gets a real quarterback that throws more than 5 yards. I hate to say it, but Amari, Woods, Thielen, and AB are the ones that I'd probably go in that group.
So, Matt, I hope this helps. It seems like we're pretty consistent on Amari and AB, and then it's kind of like, we can make arguments for the rest of these guys. I think at least 2 of us said Thielen, so he seems like he's like the red zone guy for the Vikings. So that'll be good. But yeah, there you go. MB has an interesting question. I think I have an interesting answer. What are your biggest worries as far as playoff weeks? I ain't even thinking about it right now. It's week 1.
Playoffs.
I mean, the problem is that as much as we think Team A might be, a team you don't want to go up against in the playoffs, that team could stink. That team can be terrible, and we're like, oh, this is the team we were scared of. But come week 15, 16, we're like, oh, this team's a joke. Yeah, let's start our guys against this team, that we thought, injuries happen. Teams just don't play up to what we thought they were going to play up to. I don't know if you guys have anything to add to that, but that was kind of my thoughts when I saw it. Too hard nose. So good. Matt telling us he appreciates it. Matt, I hope you can find your final 4 there and dominate week 2. So
it's a good list, Matt. So you should be happy about that.
That's for sure, because I mean, I was like, okay, like on most teams, all of these guys are starting. Worst case scenario in a flex spot, depending on if it's start 2 or start 3 wide receivers. And this guy, we have to keep 2 guys on his bench. So yeah, I agree with Drew there. Matt, you did a fine job acquiring these wide receivers for sure. But you know what? I think we're gonna wrap it up. I loved all the chat questions. That's fun because we don't get to look and prepare as much. So it's good to see like what we're thinking, kind of gut feelings. Because a lot of time, as much as I know you guys are always kind of looking at things and seeing things. But when when you're making your lineup, when you're setting your lineup for the week, you're kind of like, all right, this guy may be better than this guy, but that guy has a better matchup. What do I do here? So a lot of the times we're kind of, even with all the information that we have at our fingertips, we're kind of going with the gut and doing that. So I love the chat questions, but I wanted to, before we end this, because we are very we are honored that we get to run a Fantasy Cares Eliminator. The fact that there are 17 other people that want to do this with us. I mean, I'm not going to put any words in Bill's mouth, but it's honestly an honor because I can't believe that 17 people would actually want to do that. So I always appreciate it. But the thing about eliminators is that people they got to get eliminated. And week 1 was we had our first fall-in member, our first victim. And it was Rocky Petrola at Dynasty FF Addict, which was funny because Rocky's tweet got Bill and I going at it for a couple minutes. So
yeah, I know you, Rocky. I'm glad you're gone.
So I know Bill has a special spot in his heart for this because he gone. But Bill, this morning I was looking at our eliminator team because you said, "Wow, I'm surprised we're still in it." I was like, I don't think our team is that bad. No, our team is god awful. The fact that we were the 4th highest scoring team is amazing. Our team is not good.
We might make it to week 3 this year. That'd be amazing.
Ooh, we might win the whole thing. Who knows? We're the 4th highest.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Probably not. Listen, week 2, we'll do week 2. Yeah, I was shocked, but I think it's because we have Jamal Williams on our team, which is that he blew up.
Good call.
I love Jamal Williams. I know people.
I know you do.
I love him, man. Listen. I don't hide my love for any of these players that I truly love. I also don't hide my hatred. So, but he blew up, and listen, that's not going to be an every week thing, obviously. But hey, we made it past week 1, Bill. We didn't even do that last year, so go us. It's funny seeing some of the people that were taken in our spots because obviously, like we say, we auction off our spots for charity. Obviously, any money that's raised goes to charity. But man, our team is not good, and we have Deshaun Watson, so we ain't gonna see that dude at all. So hey, we made it. So Rocky, it was an honor and a pleasure playing with you for 1 week. Bill is happy to boot you right out after you started all the ruckus on this episode. So
he knew what he was doing with that tweet.
Hey, listen, I love Rocky because Rocky stirs the pot, and listen, I jump in the pot and just get stirred along with it.
I'm getting out of the kitchen.
So on that note, thank you to everybody who was in the chat, man. We got so many questions this week, and I love that. MB, our boy Run DFF, Larry Monkey was in here too. Jason, Matt, I can keep going on and on and on. Timothy, but. Appreciate you guys. It's always better when you guys are feeding us questions. Bill's losing it now. He's flipping everybody everywhere. Bill, stop it. People are going to get motion sickness from all your stuff. We're going to have to put some kind of warning or something at the beginning of the episode. But thank you. And remember, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. And then if you're listening to us on podcast form, thank you again. Over an hour. You could be doing anything else and you are listening to us, and that's pretty damn cool. So remember to hit subscribe on your podcast service as well. Hit that rate and review so that we can be in front of more eyes. And on that note, Drew, we are out of here.
Late.